I can't hear you.
Okay, I forgot to unmute my mic. Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon, and this is a very special episode of the Teaching Tidbits series. We have a special guest, our Provost, Dr. Christine Mangino, who is the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Hostos Community College. Welcome. So, we wanted to have this opportunity to have conversations about what it is for us to be, dealing with all of this, all of the different. Let me see if I have background noise somewhere. Okay, so we wanted to have a conversation with our provost to find out how the transition period has gone in your area. Now, you are the one that has been uh, leading the whole process in transitioning to online learning, among many other things that needed to be changed, needed to be addressed in this transition period. So we wanted to make sure that we have a good opportunity to have that conversation with you to learn a little more what has been going on and how all of these changes have gone through you. So I have one initial question for you, and is in terms of the work that you've been doing. You've been so busy before this, but then especially in this transition, how all of this has changed.
So I think that, the focus obviously and the priority is making sure that all the classes are online, all the faculty are comfortable in the online environment, have the tools that they need, the support they need. And then it was making sure that the students also had the technology and the supports that they needed to be successful. But again, how do you do that while also doing your everyday work? I think some of the work has been put to the side, thankfully, on a number of different CUNY-wide committees that have all been put on pause for a couple of months. We start the work again at the end of May, so that gave us some time to focus on what had to happen. We really do have to prioritize what was the absolute emergencies each day that had to take place for that day. And other things had to be put on hold. Now we're slowly starting to catch up. It was making sure that, every class was happening, that we had a written plan for every class so that we could submit that to CUNY and to the state for approval. That took a whole lot of work. Thankfully, I'm surrounded by a great team of people who were able to pick up lots of those pieces and take the reins and make sure that we were in compliance with what had to happen.
And you are playing different roles in one, focusing in the academic side, making sure that faculty were transitioning, were ready, as you mentioned, we had to identify all of those different requirements from different entities. But then you also have the staff, and you have all the things to be considered. As you mentioned, there was some things had to be take precedence. There were many challenges, but what would you say would be some of those challenges that you are facing as an administrator?
So I think the initial challenges was every day the message changing slightly to be prepared in case we go online, to, okay, we're going to be remote with just faculty and classes, to 2 days later, we're going to be remote with everybody. So, every time you thought you had the plan in place and everybody knew what was happening, and it would take a while to get that communication to every office that had to happen. Then all of a sudden you'd open a new email and now your communication plan had to change and you needed to go back and circle back with each and every person to update everybody. And making sure that you are updating everybody and not leaving people out has been a challenge. Not having people in my office next to me to say, ooh, can you do that? Or can you call this person? It has to be, another email to be sent or another phone call to be made before you could pass something on. You can't just have a quick in the hallway brainstorming with a number of people. I think that that's another challenge too, is where a lot of times you catch up with people as you're in a face-to-face meeting with, 10 people, as I'm walking to that meeting, I would think about, okay, who's going to be there? What do I need to tell them? How do I, catch up on certain things? So you don't have that opportunity, even though we're all meeting, virtually through video conference, you're not getting to, have a side conversation with people right before the meeting starts or right after the meeting. You can't pull somebody in your office to talk about it. So a lot of time is spent making sure that you're communicating and circling back with people and sending those emails and scheduling phone calls. And I think also making sure that you're keeping up with what everybody else is doing. Like you said, it's not just faculty. Is tutoring happening? The Writing Center just had a new director, and, trying to make sure that everything was, she had the support she needed, that ASAP was happening, that, as we're transitioning advisors over, based on a plan that had happened months ago, how to communicate back to the campus to let everybody know that that is happening and what's going on. And I think another challenge is just time, and making sure, there's just not enough hours in a day or on the weekend to do all of the work that has to have happened over the last few, or now a month. And making sure that you're, as you're working remotely, that you're turning it off at a certain point, or not starting, when you first wake up in the morning and going till the end of the day, because that will burn you out and burn your colleagues out, making sure that they're not doing that also. And then I think, on another note, another challenge has been, how do you stay upbeat with everybody? As, especially this is very true, when it first started a couple of weeks ago, you'd get into meetings with people who are, depressed and scared and, and just not their usual selves. And how do you keep the upbeat attitude through the whole thing so that, you're not going, how do you keep them upbeat so that they're continuing with their work and feeling, that the work is important?
And you mentioned something, some tips or something about, I think one of the most important elements in this whole transition, it's been communication. And although, we started in a way, as you mentioned, learning about new things and changes every single day,
Mhm.
how, after that process, how have you been able to keep a fluid communication with all of those different areas?
I think, making sure that you're copying everybody on all of the emails, and that if you're sending an email to just the chairs for their input, that it's getting, disseminated into their departments, and also that you're communicating with people in other divisions so that everybody's aware of what's happening. I used a tip from a colleague of, just blind copy everybody on the email so that you don't end up inundating everybody else with the responses from people. So that way it only goes to me. Because that's the other part. Like, you want to communicate everything that's happening, but then how do you make sure you're not communicating too much information and flooding people's inboxes and they're overwhelmed and not reading it? So there are some people that want more and more communication, and others who feel like it's just too much, stop sending it. So where do you find that balance? And then send it in a way that is easily digestible or easy to scan. And I think CUNY has done an amazing job with that, with their academic continuity documents that go out. They give you, that which it's update number, they're up to 10 now, but it's also, there's a table of contents, and you could just go down to the part that you absolutely need, rather than, going through one solid essay trying to find the information that you want. I think I could do a better job doing that in some of the emails that go out. And making sure that you're consulting with people also, to get input on what needs to happen, and make sure that people know that you've been consulting with people to get input on what's going on and the changes that have to happen.
I think you mentioned a very important point in consulting with people, and I think this connects a lot with what's going on from in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
in making sure that we understand that what is going on at the other side of the screen, right? And in how our students are prepared or not prepared, and how you could get some consensus in making sure that then everybody understands that we are all going through these challenges. Um, Excellent. So this,
Yeah,
this
and
was
I think also, how do you read people's body language on a video conference, right? So having a meeting with 10 people, how are you reading whether or not, do they have more questions, or how are they doing? I noticed the other day as I was speaking, everybody's leaning into their computer really hard. I'm like, okay, obviously there's something, they're not hearing me. So then how do I adjust my volume so that, it's not a struggle? I think, there's a whole lot of things that we have all learned through this process.
and hopefully the opportunities that could be in exploring
Mm-hmm.
what could be done. Definitely is not going to be the same
Mm-hmm.
reality as we hopefully soon go through this crisis. One of the things that I wanted to talking about crisis in is work and life. You were mentioning a little bit earlier, but then what has been something that worked for you in making sure that then you don't burn yourself and then not becoming as effective as you would like?
Okay, so I think I'm very conscious of it. So I've been very proactive about it this time around. I run every morning before I go to work anyway, so that still happens. But I realized that I also, I started doing yoga, 3 mornings a week, which really helps you just, calm down and start the day not stressed out. I think that's been super helpful. You've got to take the time. There will always be things to do. There's always a to-do list. There are always more emails that need to happen. And, so I shared this with some of the faculty. I have a 21-year-old son who's home right now from school, and making sure every day that we find time to go take a walk together outside. And, so I just did that a little while ago with him, even though I have so much to do. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take the time to do that. And then I just work later, an extra hour at the end of the day. But figuring out ways to, find pleasure in what's happening. I started doing jigsaw puzzles, these 1,000-piece puzzles. But again, but you're spending hours staying focused on something that has nothing to do with work, and you're not thinking about anything else. I felt has been a huge relief. Spending the time that I would have normally spent commuting home is now, how do we make a really good dinner tonight that we can enjoy it? So really, I have really been active in making sure that I have found that balance and that I don't burn myself out in this, because that's way too easy to do. And I think, we have to share that with each of ourselves, with everybody, to not be so hard on yourself. You're still muted.
We might even get a challenge for who solves jigsaw puzzles, and then we do a collection of all those things.
And it turns out they're sold out on Amazon. The next one I have delivered is down until July 16th. Ideally, by then we're out of the house.
No, we can make some.
Right.
Any other, you mentioned a number of tips, which are great recommendations for people to try to do. And I've seen a lot of people talking about cooking, and they have been into cooking and learning different things. And any other tips that come to mind that you want to share?
I think being active, being aware that this is an opportunity, right? You have time to do other things. So how do you do that, and to get enjoyment out of it, and be okay with getting enjoyment out of it? I also signed my daughter and myself and my partner's daughter up for a wine tasting class. So for the next 3 Fridays, we're doing a wine tasting, and have the wine delivered to the house. But how do you still have fun, right? on Sundays, we've been Zooming with my niece and nephew and playing games together. And, you know, and so you still have to appreciate family and have, you know, allow yourself that time. So even like when I'm taking the walk with my son, I say, I'm leaving my phone, you know, in the house. I don't need it. And I'm not going to look at it until I get back. And that's okay, right? If people need to get to me, they'll get to me, you know, when I get back in the house.
It's okay. This time I'm not muted. You know, I've seen also a lot of people saying that they have been connected with their family members more than before. Even although it is in the virtual format, but then the fact that you're able to have those conversations with
Yeah.
family, relatives, and also, you know, making sure that then we know how everybody is in
Yep.
this
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah, no, and how else will you ever get a 21-year-old to want to spend so much time with you, right? Like we've been playing cards, we've been playing gin rummy and stuff. Like how, you know, that wouldn't normally happen because he'd be off going with his girlfriend or his friends or, you know, whatever. So, you know, he's also stuck in the house. How do I take advantage of that and that time together that we wouldn't have had otherwise?
Excellent. So I'm going to be reading a couple of comments that I got from people that are connected with us. Professor Macri saying hi. Dig Master, and Master is tap. Any way to comment during the presentation? Yes, please. And just send us the any feedback. We have Dr. Lang that has been happy to hear those insights. Close as well. Cooking a lot for hard not to overhead.
Pilates and the yoga come in.
Maybe Dr. Lang can do a panoptomy video to make sure that you get the perfect timing,
Right.
so that you don't overheat it. You know, for close, just, you know, type your question in the chat, and then we will be able to be reading the questions, and Provost Mangino would be answering the questions. I have well, yeah, that Sarah is helping now. Thank you, Sarah, for that. Okay, so Close is providing documentaries. How can we share with Hostos family? I think, you know, you could share links in through the social media like you're doing right now. Put links or something that is important, and we will be, you know, happy to share that as well if there is something that is going to be beneficial. At this moment, one of the things that I've seen also is so many people are helping or want to help. Offer resources, offer knowledge, offer information. We just have to make sure that we are careful with the type of information that share, that people know how take care of knowing the sources and things like that. Any additional advice that you would like to give to the college community in this transition?
I think I shared this with some of the faculty, to be kind to yourself and know that it's not going to be your most productive semester, right? And it's okay if there are days that you are too down to, you know, to be working on an article or doing what you need to be doing. That it's not going to be you know, you might not get that grant written the way you thought you were going to get it written, or, you know, it's okay to ask, you know, for extensions for things that are happening, because, you know, there's a lot happening in their work environments with their students. Not to burn yourself out, also getting so emotionally involved with all the students, making sure that you're getting them to the college resources that are there to help support the students, so you're not taking it on personally. And that it's, you know, it's okay that there are days that you can't, or you have to just stop working after a while, or, you know, be kind and be patient with yourself.
What would you say to our students?
I think the same thing, right? Like you can do what you can do, but communicate to the faculty when you're struggling so that they know that and that you're still engaged in trying, because there are plenty of ways that we are trying to be as flexible as possible in the courses and with grading if they needed an incomplete because of things that are happening personally, or, you know, share with the faculty why it's a struggle for them to do it if they don't have the electronics, if they're, you know, taking care of their kids during the day and helping their kids with their schooling before they can get to their schooling, and sharing, you know, devices. Faculty need to know that so that they can help support the students also, and just know that the students are still engaged and caring and trying. And for the students also to be patient with our faculty. You know, the faculty are learning the technology along with the students at this point. So let's all just have a heart for each other, and understand, you know, from each other's perspective what the other one is, what's happening. And if that they need support, that there's plenty of support happening on campus, that they should just go to our Are You Ready page to see, you know, depending on what they need, everything is there for them to link them to the right offices, because the college is still functioning as well as we were on campus. So you know, there are ways to reach out to each and every office.
Excellent. And we have a question from Kathleen Delgado, asking about summer internships and seemingly being more difficult. What advice do you have for students and for faculty addressing?
Yeah, I think they have to be, for faculty, you have to be more creative in what you're going to ask and require of students to do, because there are going to be a lot of places where, you know, students aren't going to be able to do internships in, you know, on sites where they were going to originally. Whether or not students are having, you know, health concerns, or members of their family are having health concerns so that they can't leave their house, so they might not be able to physically go. Are there ways to connect with companies that are doing, you know, still working virtually for students to do a virtual internship? I know my son is doing it virtually where he was supposed to go in person. They are shipping him a computer so he can complete the internship this summer completely remotely. For those people that can go out, you know, to connect with Lisa Net and the career services and see what they still have that's going to take place. But be mindful that not every student might be able to leave their house at this point.
And yes, you mentioned a key word, creativity, and I think we've seen a lot happening from faculty, from staff, and everybody has been very open-minded to be able to change, adapt to this new reality, and being able to provide the support that they need to provide. And I think I've seen a lot of great approaches, making sure that then they're able to continue providing the same support that they have in the past for our students. Any final thoughts, final piece of advice that you would want to share?
Um, I think just to, you know, for people to stay connected with each other, right? Even with your colleagues in the college. We had, you know, somebody in my office sent an email to a group of us last week saying, you know, it's just so quiet in the, you know, because she was working more isolated, you know, and remembering that, you know, our COAs in the departments who are, you know, not having that same amount of interaction that they used to with the students and the faculty, you know, to reach out to each other and check in with each other, to let them know that you're there, that you care, and to see how they're doing also. And our college assistants, the same thing, right? All of our offices have kept our college assistants working, but you know, just letting them check in and see, you know, how they're doing personally.
Okay, we have another question. How do we help the students who are international students that can only work on campus?
Yeah. again, it's going to have to figure out what could be done remotely. How can they continue, what work can they do in a remote environment? And then when we are back on campus, how do you can transition them to campus, but also being mindful for those that can't come to campus, how do they work remotely?
Here's another one. As we progress through this pandemic, are there any considerations that CUNY colleges may make to accommodate essential career programs return sooner so that they can join hospitals and first responders in the workforce?
Yeah, so I mean, the positive thing is that we are graduating 23 of our registered nurses early. So they will be graduating on Friday instead of the end of the month so that they can go into the workforce. We are in communication with we have 3 allied health programs, so we've been in communication with all 3 of their accrediting bodies to see what we can do to help them continue the work that they, the curriculum that they need to do remotely until we, right now we have a stay-at-home order from our governor. So right now there is not the possibility, but as they start allowing people to slowly transition back out, will that be one of the groups that can go back out? And can the work happen on campus so that we're not sending students into the hospitals to do their clinicals is something that we have to get creative about and figure out how do we give them the skills they need and keep them in a safer environment.
So you have shared with us, key words: creativity, being open to identify new ways of delivering or creating or shifting the way that we do our programs, projects, and being flexible, acknowledging that everybody is going through different challenges. I think it's been great feedback. I hope that everybody that is right now connected, and then the ones that are going to be watching this video, we hope that this was very useful for you, and then you were able to gain a number of good tips that you could practice. You can play games online. There's ways of doing that, and it's been a very gratifying opportunity for us to have this type of conversations, and we have seen a lot of good feedback from people that have been very happy to be using this as another opportunity to continue to be connected with our college community and beyond. So I want to thank you, Provost Mangino, for accepting, despite the fact that of the amount of work that you have in sharing your perspectives in this Teaching Tidbits. And we have a few more that are going to be happening this week and next week. We're going to have people from other campuses. I have Mark Leonardton that's going to be coming and joining me tomorrow, and a couple of colleagues that are coming also in the next days. Stay tuned. It's going to be at 4 p.m. And then until the next Teaching Tidbits, thank you very much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.